Imagine stepping into a mist-shrouded world millions of years ago, where prehistoric humans battled for survival against the ultimate nightmare. Titanoboa, a colossal serpent devouring everything in its path. In the terrible War 12, witness epic clashes of cunning versus raw power. Spears flying, coils crushing, and humanity's unyielding spirit rising. Will our ancestors triumph or become the beast's next meal? Dive in now for a thrilling prehistoric saga. Step back with me to a time when the planet was a steaming cauldron of life, teeming with wonders and horrors alike. Millions of years ago, during the Paleocene epoch, the Earth was recovering from the cataclysm that wiped out the dinosaurs. Vast swamps stretched across what we now call South America, where towering ferns and massive palm-like trees formed impenetrable canopies that blocked out the sun. Rivers snaked through the landscape like veins of liquid silver, swollen with tropical rains that never seemed to end. The air was thick, humid, and alive with the buzz of enormous insects, the croaks of prehistoric amphibians, and the distant roars of emerging mammals testing their dominance in this new world. In this primordial jungle, survival was a daily gamble. The ground was a treacherous mix of mud and vines, where one wrong step could mean sinking into quicksand or stumbling into hidden pitfalls. Massive crocodiles lurked in the waters, their jaws capable of crushing bone with ease, while packs of early predators prowled the underbrush, eyes gleaming with hunger. Yet amid the chaos, beauty flourished. Vibrant flowers bloomed in explosive colors, and herds of bizarre herbivores grazed on lush vegetation, their forms a bridge between the reptilian past and the mammalian future. The climate was warmer than today, with no ice caps to cool the poles, turning the entire globe into a greenhouse of evolutionary experimentation. But this era wasn't just about passive existence. It was a forge for the resilient. Storms raged with fury, uprooting trees and flooding valleys, forcing all creatures to adapt or perish. Volcanic activity added to the peril, spewing ash that darkened the skies and poisoned the air. In such a setting, life evolved at a breakneck pace. Feathers began to appear on strange reptiles, early primates swung from branches, and the seeds of intelligence were sown in the brains of our distant kin. This was no idyllic garden. It was a battlefield where nature herself declared war on the weak, sculpting survivors into legends. As we delve deeper, remember that this world, though alien, birthed the foundations of our own. The swamps hid secrets in their depths, fossils waiting to tell tales of epic struggles. And in one such swampy domain, a colossal shadow stirred, a remnant of the dinosaur age that refused to fade. The stage was set for a conflict that would echo through time, pitting the cunning of emerging humanity against the brute force of a serpentine giant. Hold your breath. The curtain rises on a drama millions of years in the making. Now let us unveil the monster at the heart of this tale, the Titanoboa, a serpent so immense it defies modern comprehension. Emerging from the murky depths of ancient rivers, this colossal snake measured up to 42 feet long and weighed over a ton, making today's anacondas seem like mere garden worms. Its body was a seamless coil of muscle and scale, armored in iridescent patterns that blended seamlessly with the dappled light filtering through the canopy. Each scale was as tough as leather, etched with the scars of countless battles, while its underbelly gleamed with a pale, almost ghostly sheen that betrayed its aquatic prowess. The Titanoboa's head was a nightmare incarnate. A broad, triangular skull housing jaws that could unhinge to swallow prey twice its girth. Fangs like curved daggers dripped with venom, though its true weapon was constriction. Once ensnared, victims felt the inexorable crush of ribs giving way under pressures that could pulverize stone. Its eyes, cold and amber, pierced the gloom with predatory intelligence, scanning for the slightest vibration in the water or earth. This wasn't a mindless beast. Evolution had honed it into a master ambush predator, patient as the tides, striking with lightning speed that belied its size. Born in the aftermath of the asteroid impact that ended the Cretaceous, the Titanoboa thrived in the warm, oxygen-rich environments of the Paleocene. It ruled the swamps unchallenged, feasting on crocodiles, giant turtles, and any unfortunate mammal that wandered too close. Herds of herbivores trembled at the ripple in the water, signaling its approach, and even the skies seemed to hush when it surfaced to bask in the sun, its coils undulating like a living river. Legends whispered among the fossils suggest it wasn't solitary. Packs of these titans might have dominated territories, communicating through low-frequency rumbles that shook the ground. But what made the Titanoboa truly terrifying was its adaptability. It could burrow into mud during dry spells, emerging revitalized when rains returned. In water, it moved with graceful lethality, propelling itself with powerful undulations that created waves capable of capsizing small rafts, if such things existed then. On land, it dragged its bulk with surprising agility, leaving trails that resembled furrowed earth from a plow. This serpent wasn't just a survivor. It was an apex predator, the unchallenged king of its domain, embodying the raw, unforgiving power of prehistoric Earth. As we introduce this behemoth, feel the chill of its presence. The Titanoboa wasn't merely an animal, it was a force of nature, a slithering apocalypse that devoured all in its path. Yet in our story, its reign faces an unlikely challenge from beings far smaller but infinitely more cunning. The stage darkens. The serpent awakens, hungry for conquest in the terrible war to come. Shift your gaze now to the other side of this epic divide. The prehistoric humans, our bold ancestors who dared to stare down the abyss. These were not the cave dwellers of later ice ages, but early hominids, perhaps akin to Australopithecus or early Homo species, adapted to the sweltering tropics of ancient South America. Standing barely 5 feet tall, their bodies were lean and wiry, covered in sparse hair that offered little protection against the elements. Yet what they lacked in size, they made up for in ingenuity, their brains buzzing with the spark of innovation that would one day conquer the world, living in tight-knit tribes of 20 to 30 individuals. These humans formed communities bound by shared fires and communal hunts. Elders passed down knowledge through gestures and grunts, the precursors to language, teaching the young how to fashion tools from stone and bone. Spears tipped with sharpened flint became extensions of their arms, while woven vines served as traps and nets. They foraged for fruits, nuts, and roots in the dense undergrowth, supplementing their diet with small game caught in clever ambushes. Fire, that divine gift, warded off nocturnal threats and cooked meals, fostering bonds around flickering flames where stories of survival were etched into memory. Challenges defined their existence. Predators lurked everywhere, saber-toothed cats, giant ground sloths with claws like scythes, and packs of wolf-like creatures that hunted in coordinated strikes. Disease spread through insect bites, and injuries from falls or fights could prove fatal without modern medicine. Yet these humans adapted with remarkable resilience, using medicinal plants discovered through trial and error to heal wounds and soothe fevers. Social structures emerged. Leaders rose through displays of bravery. Shamans interpreted omens from the stars and storms, and alliances formed between tribes during times of plenty. Their world was one of constant motion, migrating with the seasons to follow water sources and food, building temporary shelters from branches and leaves that blended into the jungle, or flickered in their lives too. Ochre markings on rocks depicted hunts and beasts, a testament to their burgeoning creativity. Children played games that honed skills for adulthood, mimicking the stealth of predators or the flight of birds. In this harsh cradle, empathy and cooperation evolved as survival tools, turning isolated individuals into a formidable collective. But beneath their daily struggles simmered a fierce spirit. These prehistoric humans weren't passive victims of fate. They were warriors at heart, pushing boundaries and challenging the wild. As the Titanoboa's shadow loomed larger, encroaching on their territories, a fire ignited within them, not just for survival, but for dominance. United by necessity, they would transform from scattered nomads into an army of the dawn, ready to wage a war that would redefine their legacy in the annals of time. 500 words. The powder keg ignited on a sweltering dawn, when the first fateful encounter shattered the fragile peace of the prehistoric world. A tribe of humans, led by a scarred chieftain named Karg, ventured deeper into the swamp than ever before, driven by a severe drought that had dried up their usual watering holes. As they hacked through vines with stone axes, the air grew heavier, laced with an unfamiliar musk that set their instincts ablaze. Suddenly, the ground erupted in a frenzy of mud and water. A Titanoboa, coiled in ambush, struck with blinding speed, its jaws engulfing a young scout in a single, horrific gulp. The survivors scattered in terror, but Karg rallied them with guttural cries, hurling spears that glanced off the serpent's scales like rain on rock. Word spread like wildfire through the tribes. Messengers, fleet-footed youths marked with clay, symbols, raced between camps recounting the horror in vivid gestures. Elders gathered around sacred fires, interpreting the attack as an omen from the spirits, a declaration of war from the swamp's guardian demon. Alliances formed swiftly, rival tribes set aside old grudges, uniting under a council of the bravest warriors. They shared knowledge. One group revealed hidden paths through the mire, another demonstrated fire-hardened spears that could pierce tougher hides. The humans, once fragmented, became a burgeoning force, their numbers swelling to hundreds as more clans joined the fray. Yet the Titanoboa was no idle threat. Scouts reported sightings of multiple serpents, perhaps a nest defending its territory. The beasts began raiding human encampments at night, their silent glides leaving trails of devastation. Tents crushed, livestock vanished, children snatched from sleep. One infamous assault saw a Titanoboa burst from a riverbank during a tribal feast, coiling around a dozen warriors before they could react, their screams echoing through the jungle. Panic morphed into rage. Shamans performed rituals, painting bodies with blood-red ochre to invoke ancestral strength, while inventors crafted new weapons, poison-tipped darts from toxic frogs and vine lassos to entangle the giants. Escalation built relentlessly. Humans launched preemptive strikes, setting traps with baited pits lined with sharpened stakes. In one skirmish, a clever trapper lured a smaller Titanoboa into a bog, where it sank under its own weight, drowned by a barrage of rocks hurled from above. Victories like this fueled morale, but losses mounted too. An entire scouting party vanished, their bones later found crushed in a serpent's lair. The war's spark had become a blaze, with both sides adapting. The Titanoboa grew warier, striking from shadows, while humans developed signals with bone whistles and coordinated hunts. As tensions peaked, betrayal whispered in the ranks. A rogue tribesman, tempted by visions of power, attempted to appease the serpents with offerings, only to be devoured in his folly. This act solidified unity. The council declared total war, dubbing it the Terrible War 12, in honor of prior mythical clashes against lesser beasts. The stage was set for all-out conflict, with the swamps becoming a labyrinth of ambushes and chases. The humans, fueled by vengeance and the will to endure, prepared for the battles that would test their very souls against the unrelenting coils of fate. The war erupted into a symphony of chaos, with battles raging across the steaming swamps like thunderclaps in a storm. In the first major clash, dubbed the Battle of the Muddy Ford, human warriors ambushed a Titanoboa crossing a shallow river. Armed with fire-tipped spears, they formed a phalanx, driving the beast into deeper waters, where it thrashed wildly. Karg himself leaped onto its back, plunging a bone dagger into a vulnerable eye, blinding it momentarily. The serpent retaliated, whipping its tail to send warriors flying, but the humans' numbers prevailed. They harpooned it repeatedly until it sank, blood staining the waters crimson. This victory taught them the power of fire. The flames seared scales and forced retreats. Strategies evolved rapidly. Humans divided into specialized units. Scouts with keen eyes mapped serpent trails, using mud camouflage to blend into the terrain. Trappers engineered massive pitfalls, camouflaged with leaves and baited with fresh kills to lure the titans. One ingenious tactic involved echo lures, warriors banging hollow logs to mimic distress calls, drawing serpents into kill zones lined with archers firing poison arrows. Alliances with other creatures emerged. Tribes tamed packs of early canids to bark warnings of approaching danger, turning the jungle's inhabitants into unwitting allies. The Titanoboa countered with terrifying cunning. In the Siege of the Canopy, a group of serpents coordinated an assault on an elevated human settlement built in trees. They scaled trunks with muscular coils, crashing through platforms and devouring defenders. Humans adapted by reinforcing structures with thorny vines and deploying drop nets, weighted webs that entangled attackers mid-climb. Casualties mounted. A legendary warrior maiden, Arya, lost her arm in a one-on-one duel, but fashioned a prosthetic from a giant turtle shell, becoming a symbol of resilience as she led charges with unmatched ferocity. Mid-war innovations shifted the tide. Shamans discovered a hallucinogenic plant that, when burned, disoriented the serpent's senses, creating smoke screens for escapes or ambushes. Coordinated raids targeted nests where warriors smashed eggs with clubs, enraging the adults into reckless pursuits. In the Battle of the Whispering Reeds, humans used decoys, stuffed effigies on rafts, to draw out multiple Titanoboa, then encircled them with flaming barriers, forcing the beasts to constrict each other in panic. Betrayals tested loyalties. A turncoat revealed a human outpost, leading to a massacre, but his execution rallied the tribes anew. As the conflict dragged on, exhaustion set in, but human ingenuity shone. They developed coil breakers, long poles with hooked ends to pry apart constricting bodies, saving many from certain death. Night vigils with bonfires kept watch, while storytelling around camps preserved tactics for future generations. The war became a crucible, forging not just survivors, but legends, with each battle a testament to the unyielding human spirit against the primal might of the Titanoboa. The war hurtled toward its shattering peak in the heart of the Great Swamp, where the largest Titanoboa, dubbed the Coil King, guarded its ancient lair. Karg's forces, battered but unbreakable, launched a daring assault at dusk, navigating fog-shrouded waters on vine rafts. As thunder rumbled overhead, the humans unleashed a barrage of flaming arrows, illuminating the beast's massive form, uncoiling from the depths. Arya led the vanguard, her shell arm gleaming as she hurled a poisoned spear into its maw, eliciting a roar that shook the trees. Chaos ensued. The Coil King thrashed, crushing rafts and swallowing warriors whole. Betrayal struck again, a hidden serpent ally ambushed from below, but Karg's quick thinking turned the tide, using a lasso to bind the foes together. In a heart-wrenching sacrifice, Arya dove into the fray, distracting the king long enough for Karg to climb its scales and drive a sacred dagger into its brain. The beast convulsed in agony, its death throes flooding the lair and claiming more lives. But victory was seized as the remaining serpents fled into the shadows. In the aftermath, the tribes emerged transformed. Peace returned to the swamps, with humans honoring the fallen through etched stones and tales passed down. The war's legacy endured, lessons of unity, innovation, and the fragile line between predator and prey. Millions of years later, their spirit lives in us, a reminder that even against titans, courage coils eternal.